Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am just another tinfoil hat. Welcome to my show. Today, we're going to be discussing a fantastically weird case of a Sasquatch-like creature as well as some attendant high strangeness from my favorite decade of investigation, the 1970s. Without further ado, this is the story of the Sharpsville, Indiana creature. Now, the story starts in June of 1970 when a farmer and ex-Marine by the name of Dale King was visiting his future wife at her home in Sharpsville, Indiana. It was evening, and suddenly both of the young lovebirds started feeling odd, both physically and emotionally. On the physical side, they said that they were hit by this sudden, intense feeling of dizziness and lightheadedness. And emotionally, they described it as like a wave of fear washing over them. They decided to try and escape this weird vibe by heading out to Dale's home in the nearby countryside. However, they were definitely not out of the weirdness yet. The night was dark and kind of foggy in places, but up ahead there was this particular stretch of road that was much darker than the surrounding areas. Now, they actually stopped the car and debated for a few minutes back and forth as to whether or not they should continue on ahead or risk running into that weird feeling and returning back to the woman's home in Sharpsville. However, eventually they decided just to sally forth on their merry way and continued on into the strange patch of darkness. Now, once in this odd area, the couple claimed that not only was visibility really terrible, but also it was warmer in that area than it had been in the surrounding areas, and it was almost like their car headlights couldn't even illuminate the road in front of them. However, as they continued on their way, the darkness lessened as they approached Dale's home, though that is by no means where the weirdness stopped. When they got out of the car, Dale's dog Zipper, whom he had known since Zipper was a puppy, actually attacked the young couple twice. Dale said that the second time he pretty much had to beat its head in just to get it to stop attacking them. Now, all of this occurred as a strange precursor to the main event, the appearance of the creature. This was about a year later, in June or July of 1971, when around 10 o'clock one evening, all of the family dogs started going absolutely berserk. Dale went out to see what the matter was, and saw that Zipper was busy attacking this thing that stood in a particular low part of the yard, about 25 feet away from where Dale stood in the doorway. Now, as soon as he noticed it, that's when the thing turned and looked at him. Perhaps the only thing more terrifying than the bizarre gaze of this eerie creature was probably its disgusting odor, described by Dale as kind of a mix between rotten meat and decaying vegetable matter that made him want to vomit. Now, as far as how it looked, Dale claimed that in addition to being real big, about 9 feet tall, the thing was covered in dirty, stringy hair. It had long arms, no discernible neck, and a funny-looking head, described by Dale as not really ape-like nor man-like, but rather like a furry helmet, which just looked wrong on top of its ape-like body. Now, it stood in a stooped position, and it was taking kind of swings at Zipper, although Dale said that it was moving funny, almost like it was in slow motion. He also described its manner in a way that I've heard regarding other unexplained creatures as well, almost like it was confused and didn't really know what it was doing there. The entire time it was emitting this really low kind of rumbling growl. So, all of a sudden, Dale watched this scene for about 2 to 3 minutes and then realized he should probably run inside and defend himself. So he went to grab his handy-dandy shotgun and then scrambled as he looked around for the shells. By the time he was back outside, the helmet-headed ape man was making a less than speedy retreat to a nearby creek. As if to just prove a point, Dale actually fired 2 shots after it and then ran inside to call the local sheriff, who proceeded to laugh at him. About a month later, Dale was watching TV around midnight when yet again the dog started acting up. Shotgun in hand this time, he followed his faithful hound Zipper, who appeared to have picked up the scent of something, right into a nearby cemetery. In the cemetery, Zipper appeared to have lost the scent, but then picked it up again on the other side of the graveyard and continued to follow it to the creek, where then Zipper began just running up and down the creek, barking madly and looking into the water. It was at this point in time that Dale also picked up on the scent, unfortunately enough for him, and even heard something splashing several yards away, although he couldn't see anything. He continued to track this disturbance into the woods, then turned around, and although he didn't see anything or experience anything for the rest of the night, the family dogs continued barking for about an hour afterwards. Later that year was the 3rd appearance of the creature. This time, Dale was wakened around 4:30 in the morning by the dogs going absolutely nuts, and looking out the window saw the creature moving down by the creek. Now, by this point in time, Dale was absolutely determined to prove the existence of the creature, so he yet again grabbed his handy-dandy shotgun and went out after it. However, what he didn't know is that while he believed he was the tracker in this situation, he was also the trackee. His mother had been watching from the window and saw that as he tracked the creature towards the woods, the creature actually cut back around and started following him before turning around and going back into the woods itself, which is actually pretty creepy. However, while not the culmination, the climax to all of these sightings of the creature was in the spring of 1972. By then, both Dale and his brother were married, and they decided to go out on the town for the night and leave their wives home. Now, when they arrived back home, both of their wives were in absolute terror. They claimed that the thing had tried to come in through the window. So Dale and his brother took shotguns and flashlights to go and take a look and see what they could find, and they did see that, as a matter of fact, the corner of the aluminum storm window had been pulled out. However, there were no markings of tools or anything like that, which led Dale to believe that something super must have been responsible. Also lingering in the area was that by now familiar smell of rotten meat and vegetables. The fall of 1972 was the last appearance of the creature sometime around September. Perhaps unsurprisingly by now, the dogs yet again alerted Dale to the presence of the creature. He grabbed his shotgun and gave chase, but yet again couldn't get a shot in. He claimed that although he considered himself a pretty good shot, the creature was cunning enough to know how to keep far enough away from him that it would come to no harm. Now, on this particular occasion, he chased it right through the cemetery, up into the woods, and then Dale turned around and waited in the cemetery for it, but it never made another reappearance. Now, this case is fantastic enough, but there is an entirely different, according to conventional ways of thinking, sort of occurrence which Dale happened upon in the winter of 1971. He had been rabbit hunting when he noticed that this small pond had actually dried up, and nearby there was a 30-ish foot in diameter circle of weeds and grass that had been crushed in a counterclockwise swirl. Now, there is certainly a lot to discuss with this really interesting case. The first surprising aspect is kind of not only how long the phenomenon lasted. Of course, there was the initial event in the early summer of 1970 to the final event in the autumn of 1972, but how the events were really kind of restricted to this particular time frame, at least for this family. Now, the other interesting thing is something which Dale pointed out, which is that the creature never really made an appearance in bad weather. As a matter of fact, the only thing to occur on, a cold day was that strange circular vegetation formation. However, although the creature may not have been inclined to show up on a dark and stormy night, there are several aspects of this case that really seem to tie in to, haunted locations or spectral manifestations. I mean, notably that odd occurrence where Dale and his then girlfriend, just immediately felt odd. That's something that I've heard time and time again as it pertains not only to haunted locations, but also to UFO-related events. Now, too, although Bigfoot is usually considered to be kind of on the smelly side, the incredibly negative connotation and description of the odor as like rotten meat and rotten vegetables deserves at least a mention to some of the incredibly negative odors which are ascribed to extremely negative spectral entities, like people claiming that they're demonic manifestations or even some poltergeists. Now again, I use these terms very loosely, kind of serving more as a bridge rather than a fence between these apparently different fields of research. And of course, in this case, this simply could have just been a truly rancid case of Sasquatch BO. Another weird thing that, at least to me, kind of brings up some cases of hauntings is that it was claimed that the creature was always going the same direction. Now, while this path seems a little bit more varied than your typical residual haunt, I can't help but think of the many times a ghost haunts a particular stretch of road, always going the same way. Also relevant is the inclusion of a creek as the beast's go-to getaway route. However, I think the thing that really takes the cake to tie this creature to, more spectral matters has got to be the fact that the cemetery was one of its favored stomping, or maybe haunting, grounds. Of course, John Keel brought up how certain areas, cemeteries among them, seem to just attract paranormal phenomena, and Linda Godfrey has echoed this sentiment, as has Joshua Cutchin and Timothy Renner in their book Where the Footprints End. Much like other highly anomalous hairy hominids, such as the infamous Momo or Flix, this creature also came complete with its own crop circles. And I know I mentioned it before, but it's kind of interesting that the crop circle showed up in the one stretch of time that the creature did not. Another weird thing is that Zipper, which of course again had been raised by Dale since puppyhood, attacked his master after that initial experience with that very dark stretch of road. I mean, from then on, Zipper really rivaled Dale as the creature's greatest enemy, attacking or tracking it at any chance. So it's kind of interesting that that event, which seemed to sort of kick off these 2 years of weirdness, almost had an effect on Dale where Zipper perceived him to be part of it, is kind of how it appears to me. But two, that description of the first fight between Zipper and the creature is also of note. I mean, it seems almost glitchy, given that if this really was a genuine smackdown between even a large ferocious dog, which we're not entirely sure if Zipper was, and a genuine 9-foot ape man, I mean, I'm surprised that Zipper emerged unscathed, and even in the event of chasing off the creature, pretty much victorious, especially considering all the accounts of dogs faring far, far worse when they face off against the Anomalist. But yeah, given that this, would have been perceived to be a physical fight between this 9-foot tall beast and a dog, I mean, it's unthinkable to think that Zipper would come away totally, absolutely fine and unharmed. In that same vein, the description of the creature as appearing confused or like it didn't know what it was doing there not only is in line with other descriptions of cryptids, but also of ghosts and UFO-related entities. In this case, however, especially combined with its slow-mo movements and near misses, it almost seems as though something was like lost in translation, or maybe, to kind of partially quote Keel, lost in transmogrification. Add into that the weirdness of the helmet-shaped head, and this is truly a bizarre beast indeed. Well, if you enjoyed this episode on the smelly Sharpsville Shambler, please like, and if you're new to this field of crop circles, go ahead and subscribe to see what weirdness the future may have in store. Till then, you can keep up with whatever else I might possibly be doing on my website, justanothertinfoilhat.com, and for exclusive content, check out my Patreon page, which is also listed under Just Another Tinfoil Hat. For today, I am Zelia Edgar, signing off.
Doing.